My name is Eleanor, and at 67 years old, I never thought I'd be running away from my own family. After Robert died 5 years ago, I reluctantly sold our home and moved in with my son William and his wife Martha. At first they seemed welcoming, but that changed quickly. One night, I overheard Martha whispering to William about getting rid of the old woman and putting me in a nursing home to sell my belongings. The betrayal cut deeper than any pain I'd known. If you've ever felt betrayed by family, let me know where you're watching from and subscribe to hear how I turned this heartbreaking situation around. Before everything fell apart, I had built what I thought was a good life. Robert and I were married for 40 wonderful years before his heart attack took him from me. We weren't wealthy by any means, but we had a comfortable existence in Springfield, where we'd bought our modest 3-bedroom home just after William was born. The neighborhood had changed over the decades, but our little house on Maple Street remained our constant sanctuary. I had devoted 35 years to teaching English at Springfield High School. I loved introducing teenagers to Shakespeare and Austen, helping them find meaning in literature that initially seemed so distant from their modern lives. Robert worked as an accountant at a local firm, steady and reliable just like his personality. We saved carefully, planned for retirement, and looked forward to traveling during our golden years. Our home wasn't extravagant, but it was filled with memories. The living room shelves displayed Robert's woodworking projects, small intricate boxes, hand-carved chess pieces, and picture frames he'd made for our anniversary photos. The kitchen still had the same oak table where we'd eaten thousands of family meals. The backyard garden was my pride and joy, with perennials Robert and I had planted together returning faithfully each spring. After Robert passed, maintaining the house became increasingly difficult. The yard work he had always handled overwhelmed me. Small repairs accumulated. A leaking faucet, loose porch steps, gutters filled with leaves. The property taxes increased yearly, and my fixed income stretched thinner with each new prescription medication added to my regimen. I started dipping into savings just to maintain basic upkeep. I resisted selling for almost 3 years. Each suggestion from William was met with stubborn refusal. This was my home, our home. Leaving felt like abandoning Robert all over again. But eventually practicality won over sentiment. When I slipped on ice last winter and broke my wrist, I couldn't even shovel my own walkway. The isolation during my recovery made me realize how vulnerable I'd become. William presented his solution as the perfect answer. "Mom, we have that extra bedroom sitting empty since Jacob moved to the dorm. It's plenty big and you'd save on bills. Plus, Emily would love having her grandmother around." Martha nodded along, smiling and adding, "We insist. Family should be together." The process of downsizing 40 years of life into a single bedroom was agonizing. Each item required a decision: keep, sell, donate, or trash. My friend Judith helped me organize several garage sales. Some neighbors bought pieces simply out of kindness, knowing the emotional weight behind each transaction. Martha actually seemed genuinely helpful during this phase, offering storage solutions and helping me categorize belongings. William cleared out their guest room, repainted it in my favorite sage green, and installed additional shelving for my books. He moved in my reading chair, and the small secretary desk Robert had refinished for my retirement gift. These touches of thoughtfulness made me believe this transition might work after all. The first few weeks at William and Martha's suburban home seemed promising. Their house was spacious, with 4 bedrooms and a finished basement in a neighborhood of similar upper-middle-class homes. My room overlooked their well-maintained backyard. Martha prepared welcome dinners for the first week, and William took time off work to help me settle in. I established a routine of helping around the house, preparing breakfast before William left for his insurance office, tidying the kitchen, and starting dinner preparations. When Emily returned from high school, I enjoyed helping with her homework. Jacob called regularly from college, and I felt connected to him in a way distance had previously prevented. But subtle shifts began occurring around week 3. Martha started rewashing dishes I had already cleaned, claiming they weren't quite done right. She rearranged furniture I had dusted. Comments about my cooking being a bit bland for modern tastes became more frequent. William's work hours mysteriously extended, leaving me and Martha to navigate increasingly uncomfortable evening silences. I noticed Martha whispering to William in their bedroom at night, their voices just quiet enough that I couldn't make out words, but the tense tone was unmistakable. Emily started spending more time at friends' houses. The initial warmth of my welcome had definitely cooled, and I wasn't sure what I had done wrong. By the second month, Martha's true feelings became increasingly difficult to ignore. She created a schedule for kitchen use, ostensibly to maintain order, but it relegated my cooking to early mornings or late afternoons when nobody else needed the space. She implemented a new organization system for the pantry where my food items were placed on the highest shelf, requiring a step stool I couldn't safely use with my arthritis. William grew more distant, coming home later and retreating to his home office immediately after dinner. When I attempted to discuss Martha's behavior with him, he dismissed my concerns. "Mom, Martha just likes things a certain way. She's adjusting to having another adult in the house too. Give her time." But the time only seemed to worsen the situation. I overheard Martha instructing Emily one afternoon, "Grandma's getting older and needs her rest. Don't bother her with your school problems anymore." This broke my heart. Helping Emily with algebra and listening to her teenage dramas had become the highlight of my days. Emily's visits to my room became less frequent, and when she did come by, she seemed nervous, constantly checking over her shoulder as if expecting her mother to appear. Meals transformed from family gatherings to silent, tense affairs. Martha would serve food with minimal conversation, often directing any necessary questions to William or Emily while excluding me entirely. If I attempted to share a story or start a discussion, Martha would interrupt with household announcements or suddenly remember phone calls she needed to make. Desperate to improve the situation, I approached Martha one morning while William was at work. "I've been thinking," I began carefully, "that I should contribute more financially since I'm living here now. Would a monthly rent help with expenses?" I had calculated what I could afford from my teacher's pension. Martha's response was telling. "That's not necessary, Eleanor. We're family." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Though if you're concerned about space, we could perhaps look at converting part of the basement for you. It would give everyone more privacy." The basement was unfinished in one section, prone to dampness, and accessed by steep stairs I struggled with on good days. I tried different approaches to win Martha's approval. I volunteered for more household chores, including the bathroom cleaning she detested. I suggested gardening projects we could work on together, remembering she'd once mentioned enjoying plants. I even offered to watch Emily after school so Martha could pursue her part-time real estate career more actively. Each attempt was rebuffed in increasingly hostile ways. Martha reorganized my carefully arranged bookshelf while cleaning, causing several of my first edition classics to be damaged. My grandmother's teacup collection, which I'd carefully packed and brought with me, mysteriously had 2 cups break during dusting. When I expressed distress, Martha responded, "This is why many seniors choose to let go of fragile collectibles when they move to assisted living facilities." The comments about elder care facilities increased. Martha would leave brochures on the kitchen counter, claiming they were for a client, yet they always seemed positioned where I would find them. She talked during dinner about her uncle who just loved his retirement community, and how freeing it was for him to not worry about household maintenance. My belongings, already reduced to a fraction of what I'd owned in my own home, became targets of complaint. Martha mentioned storage space limitations at least daily. "We really need to use that linen closet for our things, Eleanor. Perhaps you could pare down your mementos a bit more?" Items I set down would be moved or put away, making me feel like my presence itself was unwelcome. The isolation grew overwhelming. Most of my friends lived near my old neighborhood, now a 30-minute drive away. Without a car, since I'd sold mine during the move, I became dependent on William or Martha for transportation. Martha was always too busy to drive me for social visits, and William's work schedule rarely allowed for detours. I retreated to my room more frequently, spending hours looking through old photo albums and reading books I'd already finished. I called Judith occasionally, but even those conversations became strained as I couldn't honestly share my living situation without feeling disloyal to William. I missed my independence fiercely, the ability to decide when to eat, what to watch on television, even when to do laundry. William's position was perhaps most painful of all. When Martha wasn't present, he showed glimpses of his former warmth. Bringing me tea, asking about my day, sharing news about Jacob's college adventures. But the moment Martha appeared, he would physically distance himself, his expression shuddering closed like a window against an approaching storm. When I gathered my courage to directly address the tension one evening, saying, "William, I feel like something's wrong. Can we talk about making this arrangement work better for everyone?" His response crushed me. "Mom, you're imagining problems. Martha has been nothing but accommodating. Maybe it's the adjustment period causing you stress." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "These are probably just misunderstandings. I'm sure things will smooth out soon." But they didn't smooth out. They unraveled further, leading to the night that would change everything. That Wednesday night began like many others. I had retreated to my room by 9, feeling unwelcome in the living room where Martha and William were watching their favorite shows. I read until about 11, then decided to get a glass of water from the kitchen. As I approached the hallway, I heard Martha's voice coming from the living room, uncharacteristically animated and no longer keeping up pretenses of politeness. "William, we need to discuss your mother's situation," she was saying, clearly unaware I was awake. "This arrangement isn't working, and you know it." I froze, my hand on my bedroom doorknob. I knew I should announce my presence, but something in her tone made me hesitate. I stood silently in the darkened hallway. "She's only been here 3 months, William responded, his voice tired. "What did you expect?" "I expected her to be less intrusive for one thing," Martha snapped. "She's constantly there, watching, judging how I run my household. And let's be practical about the financial aspect. We talked about using that room for an Airbnb rental before she moved in. That could bring in $2,000 monthly." My heart sank. I had no idea they'd had other plans for the room. William had presented the move as entirely his idea, his desire to help me. "Martha, she's my mother. What am I supposed to do? She sold her house because I suggested it." "And that's exactly my point." Martha's voice dropped to a calculated whisper that somehow carried perfectly down the hallway. "We should be looking at more appropriate options for someone her age. We should get rid of the old woman and find her a place in Golden Sunset Acres. That nursing home has openings now, and we could sell the rest of her furniture and collections to help cover costs." I felt my knees weaken and leaned against the wall. A nursing home? Selling my remaining treasures? I'd already parted with so much. William sighed deeply. "She's not nursing home material, Martha. She's completely independent." "For now," Martha countered, and I could imagine her leaning forward intently the way she did when making sales pitches. "But she's 67, William. How long before we're changing adult diapers and hiring nurses? Do you want Emily exposed to that? Besides, your mother has that teacher's pension, Social Security, and the proceeds from her house sale. She can afford proper care." "Most of the house money went to paying off her mortgage and medical bills," William said weakly. "But she still has savings," Martha pressed. "And that life insurance policy Robert left. If we had power of attorney, we could ensure those resources are used properly for her care. As beneficiaries, we'd also be protecting our inheritance." The naked greed in her voice made me feel physically ill. I had to press my hand against my mouth to prevent a gasp from escaping. "They discuss my finances? My insurance policy?" William's response crushed whatever remaining faith I had in my son's protection. "I don't know, Martha. It seems rushed." "Rushed? She's been here 1/4 of a year already. Our lives are on hold. We can't travel because someone needs to be with her. We can't renovate because she's occupying the space. Be practical, William. I'll call tomorrow and get information packets. We can look into options next week." There was a long pause before William mumbled, "I guess it wouldn't hurt to look at the options." I didn't wait to hear more. I crept back to my room, careful not to make a sound, though my heart was pounding so loudly I feared they might hear it. Once inside, I closed the door and sank onto my bed, my legs no longer able to support me. My hands trembled uncontrollably, my throat constricted with unshed tears. The betrayal was physical, a crushing weight on my chest making it difficult to breathe. I'd raised William, sacrificed for his education, celebrated his successes, comforted his failures. How could he consider discarding me so easily? I recalled all the times I'd put William's needs before my own, working extra tutoring jobs to pay for his basketball camps, delaying our family vacation to get him braces, driving him to countless college visits during my summer breaks, the science fair projects I'd helped him complete at the last minute, the college application essays I'd proofread, the down payment assistance Robert and I had provided for his first house. And Martha, I tried so hard with her from the beginning. When William first introduced us to his bride-to-be 15 years ago, I'd welcomed her warmly despite her cool demeanor. I'd planned their wedding when her own mother showed little interest. I'd watched their children without complaint whenever asked. Even during my years of full-time teaching, sleep was impossible that night. I lay awake cataloging the signs I'd ignored: Martha's lingering looks at my jewelry box, her questions about my financial arrangements, her comments about what furniture would go well in her home office once it was freed up. She'd been planning this from the beginning, seeing me not as family but as an inconvenience with potential financial benefit. By dawn, I had moved beyond shock to a strange, calm clarity. I would not be put away like an unwanted pet. I would not watch my remaining possessions sold off by a woman who had never valued their significance. I might be older, but I wasn't helpless, and I refused to be treated as such. I had taught generations of young people to stand up for themselves. It was time to follow my own lessons. As the first light of morning filtered through my curtains, I knew with absolute certainty I had to leave. And I had to do it before Martha's plans could progress any further. The morning after overhearing Martha's scheme, I moved through the house like a ghost, responding automatically to breakfast conversation while my mind raced through possibilities. The practical challenges of leaving were daunting. My finances were limited after using most of my house proceeds to clear debts. My circle of local friends had diminished after my move across town. And despite Martha's nursing home plans, I did have legitimate concerns about living completely alone at my age with my arthritis and occasional heart palpitations. But staying had become impossible. Each time Martha smiled at me over coffee that morning, I saw the calculation behind her eyes. When William kissed my cheek before leaving for work, his guilty avoidance of eye contact confirmed everything. I was no longer safe in this house, not physically perhaps, but certainly emotionally and financially. I waited until Martha left for her real estate showing before making my first move. With shaking hands, I dialed Judith's number, praying she would answer. Judith and I had taught together for 20 years before her retirement, 3 years ahead of mine. Despite the distance since my move, she remained the person I trusted most. Eleanor? What a lovely surprise. Judith's warm voice brought immediate tears to my eyes. Judith, I managed before my voice broke completely. For several minutes, I could only sob while she waited patiently. Take your time, dear. I'm right here, she assured me. When I finally regained composure, the story poured out: Martha's hostility, William's weakness, and the devastating conversation I'd overheard. Judith gasped appropriately but didn't interrupt until I finished with my desperate conclusion. I have to leave, Judith. Tonight if possible. But I have nowhere to go. You absolutely do have somewhere, Judith responded immediately. My guest room is yours for as long as you need it. Charles would want that too, God rest his soul. Are you sure? I don't know how long it would be until I could find my own place. I worried aloud. Eleanor Montgomery, you've been my friend for 30 years. I have a 3-bedroom house all to myself since Charles passed. It would be my pleasure to have your company for a month or a year or however long you need. Relief flooded through me so intensely I had to sit down. I don't know how to thank you. You can thank me by being ready at midnight. I'll park down the block and text when I arrive. Pack only what you absolutely need. We can figure out the rest later. With a plan in motion, I spent the day carefully selecting what to take. My social security card, birth certificate, insurance information, and banking details went into a secure folder. Medications, a week's worth of clothing, and basic toiletries filled one suitcase. The second smaller bag I reserved for irreplaceable treasures. My wedding album, Robert's watch, the handmade quilt my mother had created, and a few precious photos of William and the grandchildren from happier times. I made trips to my bathroom and closet only when I heard Martha downstairs on client calls. I hid the packed bags under my bed, heart racing each time a floorboard creaked. During lunch, I slipped into William's office and found a notepad with his business letterhead. There, I wrote a brief note. William, I overheard your conversation with Martha last night about sending me to Golden Sunset Acres. I raised you to respect others, especially family. I'm disappointed beyond words. I'm safe, but I won't tell you where for now. I'll contact you when I'm ready. Mom. While Martha prepared dinner, I made a quick call to my bank, arranging for my next pension deposit to go to a new account Martha couldn't access. I provided the bank with a temporary address at Judith's home. The representative, hearing the urgency in my voice, expedited the changes without requiring me to come in person. Dinner that evening was excruciating. Martha chatted about her successful house showing while William nodded absently. Neither directed much conversation my way, which was fortunate as I could barely swallow past the lump in my throat. Emily noticed my distraction, asking, "Grandma, are you feeling okay? You've hardly touched your chicken." Before I could respond, Martha interjected, "Your grandmother's probably just tired, Emily. Seniors need more rest than the rest of us." The condescending comment strengthened my resolve. I excused myself early, claiming a headache. In my room, I sat fully dressed on my bed for hours, watching the clock inch toward midnight. At 11:30, I slipped my note under William's office door where he would find it in the morning. At 11:45, I eased my bags out from under the bed. The hardest moment came when I paused outside the children's rooms. Emily was sleeping peacefully, her chemistry textbook still open beside her. I resisted the urge to kiss her forehead, knowing any disturbance might wake her. Jacob's empty room, with its college pennants and sports trophies, made me wonder if he would understand my decision better than his father had. I whispered goodbye to both rooms before continuing my silent journey down the hallway. Each creaking stair tested my nerves as I descended to the first floor. The security system panel glowed in the darkness. Fortunately, I knew the code from watching William enter it. I disabled it temporarily, gathered my courage, and unlocked the front door. The night air felt shockingly fresh against my face, carrying the scent of approaching autumn. My phone vibrated in my pocket, Judith's text. I took one last look at the house that had never become a home, then wheeled my suitcase down the driveway as quietly as possible. Judith's sedan waited at the corner, headlights off. She emerged silently, hugged me fiercely, then helped load my bags into her trunk. Neither of us spoke until we were several blocks away. "You did it," she said finally, reaching to squeeze my hand. "I did," I replied, surprising myself with a small laugh that contained equal parts terror and liberation. "I really did." Arriving at Judith's cozy bungalow at nearly 1 in the morning felt surreal. She had prepared the guest room with fresh linens and even placed a small vase of flowers on the nightstand. After helping me settle my bags, she made us chamomile tea. "Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps," she assured me. "Tonight, just rest knowing you're safe." For the first time in months, I slept deeply and dreamlessly, free from the weight of Martha's calculating gaze and William's disappointed avoidance. Whatever challenges tomorrow would bring, at least I would face them on my own terms. My phone began ringing at 7 the next morning. William's name flashed repeatedly on the screen, followed by text messages growing increasingly frantic. "Mom, where are you? Please call me immediately. Are you okay? I'm worried sick." "This isn't funny, Mom. Martha is upset too." I silenced the phone and joined Judith for breakfast. She had already called her lawyer friend Patricia for advice about my situation. "Patricia says you've done nothing wrong," Judith reported, pouring coffee. "You're an adult who chose to leave an uncomfortable living situation. They can't file a missing person report since you left a note clearly stating you left voluntarily and are safe." Around 10, William's messages changed tone. "I know you think you heard something upsetting, but you misunderstood. Martha was just concerned about your long-term care. We all want what's best for you. Please be reasonable and come home so we can talk about this." After discussing it with Judith, I texted back a single message. "I am safe. I will meet you alone at Riverside Cafe tomorrow at 2. Do not bring Martha." William responded immediately. "Thank God. I'll be there." The next 24 hours gave me time to process my emotions and prepare for the confrontation. Judith helped me organize my thoughts and reminded me to stay focused on the facts, rather than being drawn into emotional manipulation. She offered to accompany me, But I knew this was a conversation I needed to have one-on-one with my son. Riverside Cafe was busy enough to provide privacy in public, exactly what I wanted. I arrived early, securing a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. William rushed in at exactly 2. His hair disheveled and dark circles under his eyes suggesting he hadn't slept well. "Mom!" He hurried over, attempting to hug me. I remained seated, extending my hand instead. His face fell as he registered my formal greeting, but he sat down across from me. "I've been out of my mind with worry," he began. "You can't just disappear like that at your age." "At my age," I repeated calmly. "You mean the age where I'm still competent enough to recognize when I'm being betrayed? Or the age where I should be in Golden Sunset Acres so you and Martha can sell my belongings?" William blanched. "You completely misunderstood what you heard." "I don't think I did, William. I heard Martha say, and I quote, 'We should get rid of the old woman and find her a place in Golden Sunset Acres.' I heard discussions about securing power of attorney over my finances. I heard plans to sell my remaining possessions." "That's taken completely out of context," William protested weakly. "Martha was just exploring options. What context would make those statements acceptable?" I asked, maintaining the calm but firm tone I'd practiced with Judith. "What context would justify discussing my personal finances and insurance policy as your future inheritance?" William stared at his untouched coffee. "You don't understand the pressure Martha's been under. Having another person in the house has been difficult for her. She doesn't always express herself well." "She expressed herself perfectly clearly. The question is why you would agree with her plan." "I didn't agree." William's voice rose slightly. "I said we could look at options. That's all." "Looking at options to put your fully independent mother in a nursing home against her will?" "William, I taught you better than that." Before he could respond, the cafe door swung open violently, and Martha stormed in. Her normally perfectly styled hair looked hastily arranged, and her expression was thunderous. She spotted us immediately and marched to our table. "There you are," she exclaimed, directing her words at me while several nearby patrons turned to watch. "Do you have any idea what you've put us through? The police, the neighbors asking questions, Emily crying." "Martha," William hissed. "I told you I would handle this. You promised to stay home. So you could let her manipulate you?" Martha shot back, dropping her handbag onto our table and knocking over William's coffee. "Eleanor, this dramatic disappearing act is exactly why we're concerned about your mental state. Rational people don't sneak out in the middle of the night. Rational people don't plot to institutionalize family members for financial gain," I replied, keeping my voice steady. Martha's eyes widened. "That is a ridiculous accusation. We were discussing your care options." "You were discussing getting power of attorney over my assets," I corrected. "You were calculating how to access my life insurance by putting me in a facility I don't need." "That is a lie," Martha sputtered, but a flush crept up her neck. "Martha," I said, leaning forward slightly. "I heard every word. About selling my things, about the room becoming an Airbnb rental, about protecting your inheritance. I heard it all." Several nearby customers were openly watching now. An older gentleman at the next table frowned deeply at Martha. "This is not the place for this discussion," Martha said, lowering her voice and attempting to regain composure. "You need to come home now, and we'll sort this out privately." "I'm not coming back to your house," I stated firmly. "Not today, not ever." "Don't be ridiculous. Where will you go?" "You can't afford a place on your pension," Martha said dismissively. And there it was, confirmation she had indeed calculated my finances. William winced visibly. "My living arrangements are no longer your concern," I replied. "Neither are my finances." "William," Martha turned to my son, "tell your mother she's being completely unreasonable." William looked between us, conflict evident in his expression. For a moment, I saw the little boy who'd needed my guidance to make difficult choices, and my heart softened slightly. But I couldn't protect him from this decision. "Martha," he said finally, "maybe we should listen to what Mom wants." "What she wants?" Martha's voice rose again. "What about what we want? What about the plans we made? The money we could have she stopped abruptly, realizing what she'd revealed. The money you could have what, Martha? I prompted, as several cafe patrons openly glared at her now. Martha grabbed her purse. I won't be painted as the villain here. I've done nothing but try to help an ungrateful old woman who's clearly becoming paranoid. She turned to William. Are you coming or staying with her? The ultimatum hung in the air between them. William hesitated, then slowly stood up. I should go calm things down at home. Emily's upset. He turned to me. Mom, please reconsider. We can work this out. I love you, William, I said softly, but I won't put myself in a vulnerable position again. I'll be in touch about arranging to collect the rest of my belongings. As they left, Martha's angry whispers to William carried across the cafe. The older gentleman who had been watching approached my table. Excuse me, he said kindly. I couldn't help overhearing. Are you all right? I will be, I assured him, surprised to find it was true. Despite the pain of confrontation, I felt stronger than I had in months. I'm Albert, he introduced himself. I went through something similar with my daughter last year. If you need recommendations for senior rights attorneys, I have an excellent one. I accepted his card with thanks, not realizing then how significant this brief encounter would become later. Back at Judith's, I collapsed into tears. Not from defeat but from relief and released tension. The confrontation had gone almost exactly as expected. William was still caught in Martha's influence, but I had stood my ground. Most importantly, I had demonstrated to myself that I wasn't helpless or dependent. At 67, I was still capable of making difficult decisions and acting on them. That evening, Emily called from a friend's phone. Grandma, are you okay? Dad won't tell me anything except that you needed some space. I'm fine, sweetheart, I assured her. Your dad and I have some adult things to work through. This isn't about you, and I love you very much. Mom's being weird about everything, Emily confided. She took your room apart already and keeps saying you're confused. I know that's not true. Just focus on your schoolwork for now, I advised, heart aching at the distance between us. We'll sort this out soon. As news of my situation spread through our extended social circle, unexpected support emerged. My former vice principal called to check on me. 3 neighbors from my old street offered temporary housing if needed. My book club members organized a rotation of visits to ensure I wasn't isolated. The community I feared I'd lost rallied around me in ways I never anticipated. William attempted reconciliation several times over the following weeks, always with conditions attached. Martha feels terrible about the misunderstanding. He would begin, never acknowledging there had been no misunderstanding at all. She's willing to make accommodations if you'll just come back home. Each time, I gently but firmly declined. I'm not ready for that, William. I need time and space to rebuild my trust in both of you. The truth was, I wasn't sure that trust could ever be fully restored. Martha had revealed her true character, and William had shown his weakness. Though the pain of that knowledge was substantial, it was outweighed by my growing sense of self-determination. For the first time in years, I was charting my own course rather than allowing others to decide my fate. Life with Judith quickly fell into a comfortable rhythm. Her bungalow in the older part of town had enough space for both of us to maintain privacy while enjoying each other's company during meals and evening television. She refused to accept rent initially, but I insisted on contributing to groceries and utilities, which preserved my sense of independence. It's like the roommate situation we should have had in college, Judith joked as we prepared dinner together. Except now we're wise enough to appreciate good wine and sensible bedtimes. Through Judith, I reconnected with our former teaching colleagues. Harriet and Dolores visited regularly for card games. Frederick, who had been our school librarian, brought books he thought I'd enjoy. These renewed friendships helped fill the void left by William's absence. Most surprising was the outreach from former students. Somehow word had spread about my situation. Angela Davis, who now owned a successful bakery, appeared one afternoon with a care package. You were the only teacher who believed I could do more than just pass, she reminded me. When my dyslexia made everything else impossible, you found ways to help me succeed. Marcus Johnson, a lawyer I'd taught 20 years earlier, called offering pro bono assistance with any legal needs. My grandmother went through something similar, he explained. I wish she'd had someone to advocate for her rights. The senior center 3 blocks from Judith's became another source of support. Initially, I went reluctantly, imagining sad-faced elderly people staring at walls. Instead, I found a vibrant community center with art classes, travel clubs, and financial planning workshops specifically designed for older adults. The center's social worker, Gail, became an invaluable resource, connecting me with services I hadn't known existed. Many people your age face housing transitions, Gail explained during our first meeting. There's a significant difference between choosing to downsize and being forced out of your home. Our goal is to maximize your autonomy and options. Through Gail, I learned about senior apartment complexes designed for independent living, but with emergency systems and community activities. She helped me apply for a rental assistance program that would make such housing affordable on my pension. The waiting list is typically 6 to 9 months, she warned. Are you stable in your current situation until then? Absolutely, I assured her, grateful for Judith's generosity, but eager to establish my own space again. Albert, the gentleman from the cafe, reappeared in my life through a senior center book club. Our shared love of mystery novels led to coffee discussions that gradually evolved into dinner outings. At 72, he had already navigated the challenges I was facing after his wife's passing 3 years earlier. My daughter had similar ideas about managing my affairs, he confided during one dinner. She meant well, but couldn't understand that I wasn't ready to relinquish control of my life. Setting boundaries was the hardest thing I've ever done with her, but ultimately it saved our relationship. Albert's perspective helped me understand William's position more compassionately without excusing his actions. Our friendship blossomed slowly, both of us cautious after respective betrayals by family members. His gentle humor and unwavering respect gradually became central to my new life. Meanwhile, I maintained limited contact with my grandchildren. Jacob visited during his college break, meeting me for lunch away from his parents' house. Dad's struggling, he reported. I think he knows he messed up badly, but he doesn't know how to fix it without upsetting Mom. Emily found creative ways to maintain our connection, joining the same library volunteering program where I'd started helping. During quiet moments shelving books, she would update me on her life and school achievements. I got an A on my English essay, she whispered proudly one afternoon. I used all the tips you taught me about supporting arguments. William made periodic attempts at reconciliation, each slightly more genuine than the last. 3 months after my departure, he suggested meeting without Martha present. At a park bench overlooking the river, he finally admitted, I should have protected you better. I knew Martha was being difficult, but I never imagined she'd go so far. Yet when she did, you didn't stop her, I pointed out, not unkindly. I've been a coward, he acknowledged, staring at his hands. Caught between my wife and my mother, I tried to please everyone and ended up betraying the person who's always been there for me. His recognition was a start, but rebuilding trust would require more than words. I maintained firm boundaries while leaving the door open for continued healing. 6 months into my stay with Judith, an unexpected opportunity arose. The senior apartment complex had an opening sooner than anticipated. A 1-bedroom unit with a small patio garden. The rent, combined with the assistance program, fit precisely within my budget. It's perfect for you, Judith enthused after touring it with me. Close enough that we'll still see each other regularly, but your own space again. The apartment was modest but bright, with safety features discreetly integrated into the design. Grab bars in the bathroom didn't look institutional. The emergency call system resembled a modern thermostat. The community included residents ranging from their 60s to their 90s, all living independently, but with optional social activities. Moving in required furnishing a new space. This challenge became an unexpected joy as friends contributed pieces they no longer needed. Harriet offered a gently used sofa. Frederick provided bookshelves. Angela insisted on supplying a custom armchair perfectly sized for my shorter stature. Most meaningful was reclaiming my remaining possessions from William and Martha's house. I arranged for Jacob to be home during my visit, providing a buffer that made the interaction less confrontational. Martha maintained a cold politeness, hovering as I selected photo albums, clothing, and personal mementos. "You're welcome to come back anytime," William said as I prepared to leave, earning a sharp glance from Martha. "Thank you," I replied simply, knowing the invitation wasn't really his to extend in their shared home. As my new life took shape, I found myself busier than I'd been in years. I joined the Senior Center's tutoring program, helping struggling students 2 afternoons weekly. Albert and I became regulars at the community theater, enjoying senior discount tickets to local productions. I started a small container garden on my patio, finding satisfaction in nurturing herbs and flowers. Most importantly, I reclaimed my narrative. No longer was I poor Eleanor, who had been abandoned by her daughter-in-law, or difficult Eleanor, who had fled in the night. I became Eleanor who volunteers at the library, and Eleanor who makes the best lemon squares for community events, and eventually, Eleanor who's often seen with that nice Albert fellow. The transformation wasn't instant or easy. I still had moments of grief for what should have been a loving multi-generational household, where I could have been a daily presence in my grandchildren's lives. But those moments became less frequent as my new reality proved increasingly fulfilling. "Sometimes the family we choose is more reliable than the family we're born to," Albert observed one evening as we watched the sunset from my patio. His hand rested comfortably beside mine, neither of us rushing the gradual development of affection between us. "I would never have chosen this path," I admitted, "but I'm no longer sorry I'm on it." 1 year after my midnight departure from William and Martha's home, my life had transformed in ways I never could have imagined. My small apartment had become a true home, decorated with carefully chosen items that each held meaning. My patio garden flourished with herbs I used in cooking and flowers that brightened my breakfast table. The community of seniors in my complex provided both friendship and security, with weekly potlucks and morning walking groups keeping isolation at bay. My relationship with Albert had deepened into something neither of us had expected to find at our age. We maintained separate residences, but spent most evenings together, enjoying simple pleasures like working on crossword puzzles or watching old films. His steady presence and unwavering respect helped heal the wounds Martha's betrayal had inflicted on my sense of self-worth. "You know," Albert said one evening as we prepared dinner in my small kitchen, "I was perfectly content being alone before I met you. I thought that chapter of my life was closed. And now?" I asked, stirring the pasta sauce. "Now I can't imagine my days without our conversations," he replied simply. The undemanding authenticity of our connection felt like a gift neither of us had sought but both treasured deeply. My wider social circle continued to expand through volunteering and community activities. I developed a particular friendship with Beatrice, a retired nurse who lived down the hall and shared my love of mystery novels. We took turns hosting weekly tea and discussion sessions that became a highlight of my routine. Professionally, I found new purpose teaching adult literacy classes at the community center. Many of my students were immigrants working multiple jobs, while striving to improve their English skills. Their determination reminded me why I'd loved teaching. The moment when a concept clicked, the pride in mastering a new skill, the doors that opened through education. Financially, I had stabilized through careful budgeting and the Senior Housing Assistance Program. I wasn't wealthy by any measure, but I had enough for my needs and small pleasures. Most importantly, I had complete control over my resources, with no threat of someone else determining how my pension or savings should be allocated. My relationship with William remained complicated, but was slowly healing. After several months of minimal contact, he began making solo visits to my apartment, initially awkward but gradually more relaxed. During one such visit, he finally delivered the apology I had been waiting for. "Mom, I failed you completely," he admitted, sitting stiffly on my sofa. "I should have shut down Martha's plans immediately. There's no excuse for considering, even for a moment, sending you somewhere against your will. Why didn't you?" I asked the question that had haunted me for months. William sighed deeply. "Partly weakness. Martha can be overwhelming when she wants something. But honestly, also financial pressure. We've been struggling more than you knew. Martha's real estate business hasn't been profitable, and we refinanced the house last year. The idea of rental income from your room or reducing household expenses was tempting. His honesty, though painful, helped me understand the situation more clearly. "Thank you for telling me the truth," I said. "That's the first step toward rebuilding trust." Our reconciliation process was gradual but genuine. William began visiting weekly, sometimes bringing Emily or Jacob along. He made efforts to include me in family events, though I carefully avoided situations where Martha would be the hostess. Speaking of Martha, the final confrontation with her came unexpectedly, nearly 14 months after my departure. William called one evening, his voice tense. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important. Can I come over tomorrow?" When he arrived, his appearance shocked me. He had lost weight, and new gray streaks appeared at his temples. "William, what's happened?" I asked, leading him to my small living room. "I found something," he began hesitantly. "I was going through our tax documents, and I discovered Martha has a separate credit card I knew nothing about. She's accumulated almost $30,000 in debt." "Oh, William," I breathed, understanding immediately the magnitude of this betrayal. "That's not all," he continued. When I confronted her, she admitted she's been struggling with online shopping addiction for years. He paused, clearly finding the next part difficult. "She admitted that part of her eagerness to have you move in was hoping your finances could help cover household expenses while she paid down her secret debt." The revelation should have been vindicatively satisfying, but I felt only sadness for my son. "I'm so sorry," I said simply. "I needed you to know you were right about her motivations," William said. "We're in counseling now, trying to work through it, but I understand completely why you left that night." 2 days later, Martha appeared at my door unannounced. My first instinct was to turn her away, but curiosity won out. "May I come in?" she asked stiffly. I nodded, leaving the door open as we sat in my small living area. "William insisted I come," she began, her usual confidence noticeably diminished. "He thinks I owe you an apology. Do you believe you do?" I countered. Martha looked around my apartment, taking in the comfortable furnishings and personal touches. "I see you've landed on your feet," she observed, avoiding my question. "Yes, I have. Without anyone's help or permission." She fidgeted with her purse strap. "Look, I never meant for things to go so far. We were under financial pressure, and having another person in the house was more difficult than I expected. So you plan to put me in a nursing home and sell my belongings," I finished for her. "It wasn't like that," she protested weakly. "It was exactly like that, Martha. I heard you say those exact words." She stared at her hands for a long moment. "I've made some poor decisions," she finally admitted. "William is insisting on complete financial transparency now, and it's humbling." "I imagine it is," I replied, neither accepting nor rejecting her half-hearted apology. "He wants you to come for dinner next Sunday," she continued. "All of us together trying to move forward." I considered the invitation carefully. I appreciate the gesture, but I think smaller steps might be better. Perhaps William and the children could visit me here first. Martha's lips tightened, but she nodded. "That's fair." As she stood to leave, she added awkwardly, "Your apartment is nice. You seem well." "I am well, Martha. Better than I've been in years, actually." After she left, I sat quietly, processing the interaction. Martha's reluctant semi-apology wasn't the dramatic reconciliation scene one might hope for in a storybook ending. There was no tearful embrace, no complete transformation of character, but there was a shift in power dynamics. I was no longer the vulnerable mother-in-law dependent on her charity. I was Eleanor Montgomery, a woman who had rebuilt her life on her own terms. Over subsequent months, my relationship with William and my grandchildren continued strengthening, though Martha remained a polite but distant figure at the periphery of our interactions. I attended Emily's high school graduation and Jacob's college commencement, sitting with William but maintaining my separate identity, rather than being absorbed back into their family unit. The journey from that terrifying night of eavesdropping to my current contentment had taught me invaluable lessons. Financial independence, even on a modest scale, was essential to maintaining personal autonomy. I became an advocate at the senior center, helping others organize their resources to prevent vulnerability. True family wasn't defined by obligation, but by mutual respect and care. The community I'd built around me, Albert, Judith, my neighbors, and former colleagues, demonstrated this daily through small kindnesses and genuine interest in my well-being. Age was not equivalent to helplessness. Each time I mastered a new skill, from the community center's computer classes to the water aerobics I'd started for my arthritis, I disproved the narrative that aging meant inevitable decline and dependence. Most importantly, I learned that starting over was possible at any age. The night I fled with 2 suitcases, I had felt my life was ending. Instead, it was beginning a new chapter, one I was writing myself rather than having dictated to me. One evening as Albert and I sat on my patio watching fireflies appear in the community garden, he asked thoughtfully, "Do you ever regret leaving that night? Wonder what might have happened if you'd confronted them immediately instead?" I considered his question carefully. "No," I answered finally. "That night was terrible but necessary. Sometimes you need to be pushed to the edge before you realize you can fly." He smiled, taking my hand gently. "You certainly soared." As the sun set on another day in my self-determined life, I felt profound gratitude for the painful awakening that had led me here. Martha's whispered plans, intended to diminish me, had instead set me free. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect yourself from those who should have protected you? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Remember, it's never too late to start over and build the life you deserve. Please like this video if my story resonated with you, subscribe for more stories of resilience, and share with someone who might need to hear that they too have the strength to change their circumstances. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth isn't determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to respond when faced with betrayal.